Hi, my name is Morgan Bradley, and as stated in past videos, my molecule is melatonin, as you can see. So the first thing I'm going to talk about is forces of attraction. So, what I think the force of attraction is for my molecule would be hydrogen bonding. This is because, as you can see, it has an NH here, and it has an NH here. And according to what we learned in class, NHs, the NH bond, does hydrogen bonding. So that makes me believe that this would produce hydrogen bonds. The other thing that it could produce would be dipole-dipole bonds. This is because it is slightly polar, so therefore it could produce dipole-dipole. However, I think the overall way that it would bond and the overall force that it would create would be hydrogen bonding. So I'll write this here. And again, that's because of the two NHs. So the next thing I'm going to talk about would be the melting point and boiling point. So I looked up on the websites, and I looked up on Chem UK, and they told me that the melting point is around 117 degrees Celsius, and the boiling point is around 512.8 degrees Celsius. And I've found other sources that also agreed with these as well. So that is supported by this being hydrogen bonding, because hydrogen bonding, as we learned, is the second strongest force of attraction, second to ionic bonding. So since it is a strong force, one of the strongest forces, it needs higher melting point and higher boiling points in order to break those bonds. Also, as you can see, this has a lot of double bonds within the structure itself, and those also require higher boiling points and melting points in order to break those structures, the double bonds. Next, I'm going to talk about whether this is an acid, base, or if it's amphiprotic. So, as we learned in class, an amine is, this is a basic functional group. We also learned that an amide isn't basic, but I did some research and I saw that this would be slightly, or I think it said more, acidic. So, since this is basic and this is acidic, these two functional groups, that means it has one of each, and according to our notes and what we learned in class, that means that this would be amphiprotic. So I'll write that down here. So melatonin is amphiprotic. The next thing that we're going to do is oxidation number. So I picked two of my central atoms, and I'm going to do this lovely oxygen and this lovely carbon. So I'm going to do this down here, so I'm going to have to squat a little. So first we have the oxygen, and I'll just draw it like this. He's got these, and then it is a carbon and a carbon. So the way you find out what the oxidation number is you do the number of greater bonds with like higher electronegativity, and for this the oxygen is higher, so it would be 0 minus the number of less electronegative bonds, and that would be 2, plus any charge that's already there, and that's 0 because there's no charge. So for this, the oxidation number is a -2, so I'll write that right there. Now for this carbon, I'll do this over here. You have your carbon connected to another carbon, connected to another carbon, and to a hydrogen. So again, the same process. These would have no polar bonds because they have the same electronegativity, so they don't even count. However, this again, the hydrogen is less electronegative than the carbon. So you'd have 0 for greater, minus 1, plus 0 because there's no charge on this carbon already, and then you'd get -1. So this has a -1 oxidation number. Now, lastly, as we talked in the last video, to wrap this all up, we talked about solubility. Now, I know that I said in the last video that ethanol had better solubility than water in melatonin, but I also read, when I was looking up the melting points, I saw some information about how melatonin is actually lipid soluble. Now, this is really important for how melatonin works because melatonin is produced by your pineal gland in your brain, and it helps you know when to fall asleep. It helps your body calm down. It deals with your circadian rhythm. In order for this to work, your melatonin, the melatonin hormone, has to be able to pass through cell membranes, which are composed of a phospholipid bilayer, and they have to be able to attach to cell receptors so that they can start calming down your body. So since this is lipid soluble, it allows the melatonin to get through this cell membrane, which is made of lipids, and it allows it to connect to those cell receptors so that it can start telling your cells in your body to calm down. Also, it can deal with your blood pressure and lower it so that you can calm down. And so since it's amphiprotic, I think that would be important because it could deal with your blood. Since your blood is basic, it could also allow melatonin could be basic so that it could also calm down your blood. It was really interesting learning about melatonin overall. I really enjoyed it, and thank you.